If you want to see what happened in stage 1 of the Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt, this is what this video is all about. So stay tuned. Hi, my name is Kim Newlove. I am the host of the Perrysburg Podcast, which you can find at perrysburgpodcast.com. I am a Perrysburg resident, and my husband and our son Craig and I participated in the Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt. We had a wonderful time, and now that it is over, as I record this, it is August 10th. It has just ended. I'm going to share my family's experience with the Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt. We had such a great time. So just to make everything crystal clear and show you all of the images, because it's hard to explain this pile of stuff we collected along the hunt, it's easier to just show you a presentation. So thank God for Canva. Let's roll this presentation. Hello and welcome to the presentation. At this time, I'll tell you about my family's treasure hunt journey. This is the video for stage 1, and I also have a video for stage 2. In this picture, you'll see me in the black shirt on the left. My husband, Nathan, is in the blue shirt on the right, and our son, Craig, who's 23 and has autism, is in the green shirt on the right. Now, just a heads up, Craig does not always look at the camera and smile, but I promise you he had a great time on the Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt as well. And then also in this picture in the background, we've got Kate French, one of the keepers of the hunt, and her daughter. And this picture was taken at Way Public Library in the basement at Treasure Hunt headquarters. Treasure Hunt headquarters was either in this main area where the book sale takes place, or it was in one of the conference rooms. It was always easy to find, so this is Treasure Hunt headquarters. As I get started, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you so much to Kate and Lacey, the keepers of the hunt who dreamed up the Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt and executed it so well. Thank you so much. We had such an awesome time. And clearly, this was a team effort. So thank you to all of the Perrysburg area organizations who participated and all the sponsors who sponsored this event. It was awesome. We had such a great time. And special thanks to Kate French for permission to share our Stage 1 and Stage 2 Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt journey here on YouTube. How did this get started? When did we begin our treasure hunt journey? We signed up at Way Public Library on June 22nd, 2026. It was a Monday. It was 4:15 p.m. And I mentioned the exact time because the treasure hunt headquarters were only open on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. Monday and Saturday was at Way Public Library, and Thursdays were at the Perrysburg Farmers Market. So yes, I went at 4:15 p.m. I had $5 in my pocket, and that is how our treasure hunt journey began. What did we get for our $5? Well, we got our stage 1 materials. There was this handout, which I have flattened out and scanned. So you're looking at the front on the left and the backside on the right. And we also got a sticker that says Treasure Hunter, and it's on the laptop that I'm recording this video on right now. And every time I see it, it makes me happy because I had such a good time on the Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt. When you open up this passport, as I call it, this is what you see. There's directions for stage 1 and stage 2 on the left, and information about hunt headquarters on the left as well, at the bottom in blue. I know it's really tiny as you look at this probably on your smartphone or your laptop, but that's what we've got here. Stage 1, stage 2, and hunt headquarter information. Now, there were 12 clues in this passport, and we had to use the clues to complete an activity. And at the end of the activity, there was a stamp. So you're looking at our 12 stamps on our passport. This is a completed stage 1 passport. All right, I want to make a quick note about the clue challenge rating section, which is on the right, circled in black. This is what it looks like blown up. On the left, you see clue challenge ratings. Easy, medium, and hard. There's 1, 2, or 3 little gear symbols. I think these were kind of helpful if you were looking for an easy clue. And I think they were fairly accurate ratings, but I will comment on them throughout this video. So remember that these ratings are for the clue, not the activity. It took me a little while to catch on to that. Just because it's rated an easy clue doesn't mean it's an easy activity. We got to choose our first clue, and we went with the top left because I guessed that it was for the 577 Foundation. I will leave you to read this clue. I've got it clearly displayed there on the right, but I would say that I have been to the 577 Foundation many times, and a lot of the words in this clue resonated. The part about the bees, the gardens, and curiosity. So that's how I knew it was the 577 Foundation. This was rated an easy clue, and I would agree. As a local, this was an easy clue. When we went to the 577 Foundation, we picked up a map in the Curiosity Shop, as it is known. It's also called the Welcome Center, so Curiosity Shop or Welcome Center. This map, which has mostly green on it, had 7 stars on it. We had to go around to the locations where the stars were and find some stars on buildings and look at the letters that were inside the stars. It was very easy to do. I've been to the 577 Foundation many times. So Craig and I walked around the 577 Foundation, found all 7 letters, we unscrambled them, and we spelled the word curious, which is very fitting because the Welcome Center is also known as the Curiosity Shop. This is just a little picture of some of the stars that were inside the buildings. It's a yellow star with, I think, a blue or black letter. I'm not sure what color it was, but it was pretty easy to find them. Once we showed the person at the desk, the Welcome Center desk, what we had found, the word curious, that is, then she stamped our passport. So we both got the map from this person in the Welcome Center and told them the word curious to get the stamp. So this is us, June 23rd, 12 o'clock p.m. And at this time, I knew I was going to have fun because that was a cool puzzle. The next clue for us was the troll under the bridge. So if you look on the left, second one down, that's the troll clue. If you read the clue, it basically points you to a troll under the Perrysburg Maumee Bridge. I like this clue because it reminds me of the Three Billy Goats Gruff book by Paul Galdone. There's a troll under the bridge in that book. As far as the difficulty of this clue, it is rated a 1 for easy. And I agree. As a local, this is a very easy clue. We just had to look under the Perrysburg Maumee Bridge. When we got under the bridge, you see what's on the left. There is a purple troll. He's kind of cute, actually, for a troll. And in front of the troll, there was a sign on the railing. We had to scan a QR code to see a video clue featuring Mayor Mark Weber. And Mayor Mark Weber essentially invited us to come to the municipal building. On the right, you see Craig and me at the municipal building with the stamper. We got stamp number 2 on June 23rd. The next clue we chose was related to the water tower on 5th Street. So in the center section, second one down, the clue talks about befriending the giant that stands on 7 legs on 5th near the Guardians of Flame. Underwater, the past points onward. Now, I made my first oops on this clue. You'll see that in just a second. As far as difficulty, this was rated medium. I would agree, but the location of the next clue after finding the actual water tower confused me because of where I parked, and you'll see that right now. Oops, I parked at Schaller Memorial, which is the Legion Hall building, and I walked past the Perrysburg Engineering Division. I saw a clue under a bench right there. I grabbed it, and I thought I had found it, but it didn't really take me anywhere, so I had to keep moving. I actually had knocked on the door, and I talked to somebody inside, and he said, "Oh, everybody just looks under the water tower." So thanks to the guy at the engineering division for that little extra clue. By the way, this is the stage 2 puzzle that I found in that box under that bench at the engineering division. And there's 2 keys, which are at the bottom to help solve puzzles in stage 2. Not the puzzle that is you're looking at right now, but 2 other puzzles. Back to the water tower. On the ground, under the 5th Street water tower, there was this clue. Long story short, that clue led us to the water tower on Scheider Road, just past the mosque. This one that's got all the people in the top rim. There was another clue there. The clue is on the fence. I don't know if my picture from this presentation is directly over it, but at the bottom left of the image, there is a clue on the fence. That clue is pictured on the right there, and it basically says to go to the building that keeps the city running. There is a water tower behind the Department of Public Service on Roachton Road, so that's where I headed next. And that is where I found the next clue on a fence, very similar to the one on Scheider Road. And when you read it, it says, "One final tower rises close at hand, silently guarding Station 39. Station 39 is on Fort Meigs Road, right next to the 4th and final water tower." So we went and read that clue, which was also attached to the fence. And it says basically to go to the fire station and get your stamp. So that's what we did. This is Craig and me the morning of June 24th at Fire Station 39 on Fort Meigs Road. We got our stamp. The stamp was pretty cool, so I did take a picture of it. On the left, you can see the stamp has 4 water towers arranged in a circle. And on the right, there was a bonus clue on the window. I took a picture of it, and it says, "Keep this safe. It will be of use once the hunt begins." And I'm not sure if that means it was posted there at the fire station prior to the Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt beginning, but I took a picture of it, and it turns out that I needed it for a clue when we got to Frank Elementary School. We needed it for a puzzle when we got to Frank Elementary School later on. Moving on. The next clue we chose was in the center column, bottom row, and it says, "Seek the heart of the township." As far as clue difficulty, this one was rated easy, and I would agree. This one was easy. I took it to mean go to the Township Administration Building on Lime City Road. So if you look at the clue at the bottom in that center column, there are limes and a picture of a city. Now, there's a certain number of limes grouped up, 2, 6, 5, 5, 5. So it says, "At the Perrysburg Township Administration Building, you have indeed found the heart of the township, though the numbers in your clue point toward a future address, which is 26555. The township's new home is not yet complete." And basically, it then points you over to the police station where you continue your hunt. This is a picture of the desk at the police station. There was a map in that green basket. On the left, kind of in the center of the picture at the top there is a locker with a lock on it. We figured the stamp pad and the stamper were in there, and we ended up being right. In that basket, there was a map, and you had to find 4 different numbers to unlock the lock. So you had to find the combination. Where did this clue take us? It took us to Sawyer Quarry Nature Preserve on Lime City Road. It's just up the street and across the street as well, very close by. Once we got to the quarry, we followed the yellow path, we found all 4 numbers, and then we went back to the police station. But just for completeness sake, I want to show you, this is kind of like a zoomed in version of the map. You can see they tell you exactly where all of the different numbers are that you need to find. It turned out that there was 1 ribbon up high on the top of a tree in the stone quarry. There were 3 flags up high on the primitive trail. There were 5 flags, 5 green flags on the primitive trail, and 4 blue flags on the main trail. So the combination was 1, 5, 3, 4. We took that information back to the police station. As you can see, we sprung the stamp pad and the stamp free, and we were able to stamp our passport. Hooray! So at 8 o'clock in the evening on June 24th, we got our stamp number 4. The next clue led us to 7 churches. The clue says, along the boundaries and within, 7 await, some crowned with steeples, some unadorned. At each doorway, a fragment. Join them together and a path will appear. As far as difficulty for that clue, it's listed as medium to hard. I would agree. There were 8 stops altogether, and the path part of the clue was not clear from the clue. So it talks about 7 await, but then it talks about a path will appear. I didn't know where the path would be. So I agree. This one was medium to hard. I know my way around Perrysburg, and I'm very familiar with most of the churches, so I went to all 7 churches. The first one I went to was Perrysburg First Church on West 2nd Street. My younger son, Derek, went to preschool there, so I guess I started there because of familiarity. There was a puzzle there, so it's a crossword puzzle, and there were clues, of course. So the first clue says, born of earth and baked by flame, stacked high to become shelter or laid flat, steering your footsteps down old pathways. And I didn't know, honestly, what this word was, so I think I used ChatGPT on this one, and I got the word brick. Second stop, there was another clue, a line drawn for your feet, a narrow course shaped by time and many travelers urging you ahead. This was at St. Rose, and the word that goes in there is path, P-A-T-H, path. Number 3 is a quiet vault inside your mind holding moments, echoes, and stories. What is this hidden place that rests within you? And the answer is memory. We found this one at First Presbyterian Church on East 2nd Street. The fourth one is a spiraling creature whose chambered shell is built with a golden ratio. This living fossil is a sailor of the seas. Now, when I saw the word chambered and I saw golden ratio, I'm a science person, so I know what a nautilus is, so I knew that nautilus was the answer to this one. I found this clue at Zor Lutheran Church. Number 5 was at Grace Church. Now, by the way, these are not numbered at the actual churches. These are just the order in which I found them. And when I say I, my son Craig was with me as well. So Craig and I found the 5th one at Grace Church on East Boundary Street, and it says, a word for something bare and plain, sharply clear, stripped of all but its essence. What is it? And the word is stark. Now, I got to tell you, when I saw the word nautilus, I thought there is a nautilus in Perrysburg, and it's at the Norma Stark Memory Garden and Labyrinth. And so I started thinking, maybe these words are related to that place. And I ended up being right. So the word for number 5 is stark, and that made sense. And then the 6th church that we went to was St. Tim's Episcopal Church, just down the road from Grace Church. The clue is an ordered place of growing things, tended by sun, water, and time. What is it called? The answer is garden. And again, thinking of the nautilus, and it's at the Norma Stark Memory Garden and Labyrinth. Maybe some of the words from the title of that place are going to be in this puzzle. I was right. The word garden is the answer. Then we went to the 7th and final church. It was at the First Baptist Church, which is across from Mr. Freeze. The clue is a refuge wrapped in stillness, a haven touched by calm, where comfort and safety meet. What is this place called? And the answer is sanctuary. And that really fits because all of the churches are basically, places that have a sanctuary. That's what it's called, the place where the worship service occurs. Sanctuary. Moving on, the completed puzzle looks like this. The completed crossword puzzle reveals the word labyrinth, which is no surprise given the other words that are in this crossword puzzle. So it led us to stamp number 5, which is located at Norma Stark's Labyrinth and Memory Garden. the Norma Stark Labyrinth and Memory Garden. Now, just a little inside story real quick. Norma Stark was my band teacher when I was in elementary school and junior high. And I, of course, knew her in high school as well. And then when I moved to Perrysburg, I bumped into her from time to time. So it was really cool that this was part of our treasure hunt journey. We got that stamp on June 25th. Moving on, the ice cream shop clue. The column on the left, third one down, that's what this one is. And the clue talks about 4 sweet reliefs. And I thought, oh, ice cream shops. So that was easily recognizable. But then at the bottom, it talks about a cooler reward. This clue was rated as easy to medium. I would kind of disagree. I think very much like the church clue, there were a lot of stops, and the part about the cooler reward was not really clear to me from the clue. So I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying my experience was I thought this was a solid medium. It was a medium clue for me. What did this clue look like? Well, you had to go to the 4 ice cream shops: Nedley's, the Oh Dear Diner, Twisty Treat, and Mr. Freeze. At each ice cream shop, you got a business card-sized clue, and there were 4 steps to putting this together into something that could be used for the next clue. Step 1, you tape it together like this. There's a red cross on the top left, a blue heart on the top right, a yellow sun on the bottom left, and on the bottom right, there's a green triangle. I taped it together as directed, and it says X marks the spot right there in the center. So the directions are tape it together like this. Step 2 is draw a line between the red cross and the green triangle. Step 3 says draw a line from the yellow sun to the blue heart. And then step 4 says hold it up to the light. So when I held it up to the light, I circled the spot, okay? It's the municipal park pool. But unfortunately, I misunderstood the directions. So here's my next oops. I drew an X on the wrong side. So I thought I was supposed to connect the little ice cream cone pictures, and I was wrong. So I put an oops over that for this video. Everybody makes mistakes. It's a fun treasure hunt. It's okay to admit these things. And when we admit our mistakes, I think other people feel like, hey, you know what? She's human too. So, yep, I'm human. But once we went to Municipal Park Pool, we found yet another clue. And that clue basically directed us to the YMCA. So if you look on the right, there's a clue. The first letter of each sentence spelled out YMCA. So the next stop was the Fort Meigs YMCA on Eckel Junction Road, and that's where we found stamp number 6. Now maybe you can see why I thought it was a clue of medium difficulty. Not only did you have to go to 4 ice cream shops, but also the pool and the YMCA, which also has a pool. So that's the cooler reward, the swimming pools. The next clue was kind of hard for me. Don't know if it was hard for everybody else, but it refers to a clock and a chessboard, basically. Where time keeps watch above a public square, a checkered ground awaits a quiet war. Kings may linger, pawns may crowd the ranks, but power rests with she who moves most free. Seek the sovereign who rules the board, dark or fair, and look below to find what comes next. This is the center column, top row. This is listed as a medium clue challenge, so medium difficulty. I thought it was kind of hard, actually, and I think it's because I'm just not that familiar with the chessboard at Levis Commons. I thought the clock that was being referenced was actually the clock at the corner of 2nd Street and Louisiana Avenue. But I found a hint by accident. I read on the Treasure Hunt's Instagram page that the White Queen was stolen, and that clued me in to start this challenge at Levis Commons. And here, just for the sake of completeness, this is the post from Instagram. It says, hear ye, a beloved lady of the court has mysteriously vanished from her rightful place at Levis Commons. See, Levis Commons, that's how I knew it was Levis Commons. Her fellow nobles are concerned, her subjects are restless, and the kingdom is not taking it well. Meaning, I think that some people were complaining that the White Queen was missing. The Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt maintains a strict no ransom policy, so negotiations are regrettably off the table. However, we do respectfully appeal to whoever may have spirited her away. Please return her safely to her court. No questions asked. Long live the monarchy. Whoever wrote this has a sense of humor, and I appreciate that. And again, this was a hint on Instagram that I needed. So thank you for the hint. When my son Craig and I went over to Levis Commons, we found the chessboard, and I believe we picked up the Black Queen. And when we looked underneath, it says, "You have chosen me, though my fair twin would have served you just as well. We have spoken, but the game is not yet done. Seek our sisters, 12 in all, born of a different play. Behind gleaming glass they stand watchful, gazing out along these winding ways. 4 houses claim them, scattered but bound by suit. 3 of each you must gather, and from each family a truth will emerge. Read between the lines and heed what is revealed." We started this clue in the morning on June 26th, but we didn't come back to it until Sunday, June 28th. Instead, we started our next clue. And it wasn't because it was difficult. We had stopped by Levis Commons right before my son had a doctor's appointment. So we had to come back to it another time. But later in the afternoon, we did go to Kazmier's for the next clue. If you look at the column on the right, bottom row, that is the Kazmier's clue. It says something about the elm's shadow, the purveyor of daily needs, filling shelves and coolers, and going to somebody clad in an apron. This clue was rated easy to medium. I disagree, just slightly. I thought it was an easy clue for a local. If you know that there is a market on Elm Street, it's actually at the corner of Elm and 2nd, East 2nd, then you know that Kazmier's is the location. So we went to Kazmier's, and again, it's at the corner of Elm and East 2nd, and we found a clue in front of the meat department or the deli. I had to ask the person at the meat department where the clue was because I didn't see the little baby basket there in the picture on the left at the bottom of the picture. We grabbed the clue, and it happened to be a scratch-off ticket, kind of like a lottery ticket, which was very unique. It says the smallest copper key will reveal what silver has hidden. So the region that needed to be scratched off was silver. It says, though no longer forged, the humblest of coins still serves. Anyways, I scratched off and it revealed the clue that's in red. It says, turn the clock to 1898 and seek the first chapter of this family story. Those same walls are now devoted to strength, balance, and quiet endurance. So I Googled the address and I found the next clue at 128 Louisiana Avenue, which is the Pure Bar building. Going back to the clue, the scratch-off clue, it says the walls are now devoted to strength, balance, and quiet endurance. And that makes sense. That's Pure Bar. When I looked at the clue, that was, you could just see it from the window. Sorry, there's a glare, so it's hard to read this. There were 4 sentences. The first word of each sentence spelled the word Walt, W-A-L-T, Walt, as in Walt Churchill's Market. At Walt Churchill's Market, we found the stamp. It was very easy to find and no more hoops to jump through. So stamp number 7 was ours on June 26th. There's Craig with our passport. Our next clue that we chose was the right column, the top row, and it led us to the cannons at Riverside Park. The clue talks about old iron sides and 2 forged voices aimed toward open water. And for me, I just knew what that was. I have read the sign at the cannons there along Front Street, and it refers to Old Ironsides. So I knew we had to go to Riverside Park. This clue is rated medium, and I agree, especially if you don't know the origin story of those cannons. I believe, if I remember right, they are replica cannons. They were not actually on Old Ironsides, but they were replica cannons. This is a picture on the left of the cannons at Riverside Park, and if you look on the part that you can't see from the sidewalk, you see the clue. So on the picture on the right, you can see a circle on the cannon with the clue. If you look at the clue, basically it directs you to find a large thing and then the smaller version of it. Long story short, there are paper airplane sculptures at Riverside Park. You can kind of see them in the picture on the right at the top. And then there were little ones. These are new. Okay, they haven't been there before. This was just for the treasure hunt. You can see a blue one and a purple one on the right in the bottom row. So we followed these smaller paper airplanes along the multi-use path east toward the Perrysburg Boat Club. And there we found a flag puzzle. So these are nautical flags there at the top above my husband's head. And the key to the nautical flag puzzle was on the right. So you can see it in the window to the Perrysburg Boat Club, and I'm pointing to it there. We used the key to decode the message, and the message said, Commodore Perry statue. So that's where we went next. We went up to the Commodore Perry statue, and we didn't find anything at the street level, so we looked around the statue. We ended up finding the next clue, or the message, on the hill behind the statue, and it was staked down into some mulch, and it was in front of a bush. It was not something that I normally would have looked for or thought anything about. So once we read the clue, it basically says, follow Commodore Perry's gaze to the shops on Louisiana Avenue and find the shop that is named after our town's old fortress, Fort Meigs. What shop is on Louisiana Avenue that even remotely sounds like that? It's Meg, M-E-I-G, Meg. It's a shop on Louisiana Avenue. Now, when we stopped by, the shop was unfortunately closed. We stopped by on Friday, June 26th, around 7:30 p.m. The shop was closed for the day, so we came back on Saturday, and we got our stamp on Saturday, June 27th, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Next, we headed back to Levis Commons, and that was on Sunday, June 28th. And my husband and Craig were resting on a bench before we walked around. It was one of those hot days at the end of June. I think it was about 90 degrees by noon. We searched all of the shop windows for the queens. We were supposed to find 12. We only found 11. For the Queen of Hearts, all of the letters that are in the middle of those cards, hopefully you can see that, they spelled the words Great Gatsby, which is a book. We searched for more queens. We found the spades. Now, just as a quick note, we didn't only look for the spades and then only look for the hearts and then only look for the clubs and then only look for the diamonds. No, we just took them all as they came. And for the sake of this slideshow, I organized them by suit. The Queens of Spades spelled The Hobbit, which is another book. I'm seeing a pattern. We searched for even more queens. We could not find the third Queen of Diamonds. So we didn't know what all those letters spelled. We ran it through ChatGPT, and it said that it possibly spells Treasure Island, which is the name of another book. I'm definitely seeing a pattern here. All book names so far. We searched for the last queens, and again, we only found 11 out of 12. And the Queens of Clubs spelled The Secret Garden, which is another book. So we figured, okay, it's a book related or a book themed clue. Let's head over to Books A Million at Levis Commons. And there we found stamp number 9 for us. Stamp number 9 was at Books A Million. Now, all of the stamps in this treasure hunt were not numbered. These are just the order in which we found them. The next clue we picked was in the column on the right, third row down, and it led us to Way Public Library. I thought this was a pretty easy clue because it talks about following the way, meaning Way Public Library, to a place of quiet and bound words, meaning books. I don't know. It just kind of fell into place, really clicked for me. And then it said, descend below to seek not gathered pages, but framed creations. Here, witness what is crafted by the hands of our town. Often in the basement, there's either artwork or photography that is framed and on display in the basement. So I thought, Way Public Library, basement. And this is rated as a hard clue. I disagree, maybe a medium if you're not really a bookish person who goes to Way Public Library much. But anyways, it is rated as a hard clue. We found a puzzle in a basket in Way Public Library's basement. It's the one on the left here. It says Over the Rainbow. Now, there's a lot of words on that page and it's super tiny, especially if you're looking on a smartphone. So I'll just tell you that it basically told us to find some sculptures and match them to the description at the bottom where all those words are. So if you look closely, there are 13 different spots for sculpture names, and I know that there are sculptures at Woodlands Park. Therefore, we headed over to Woodlands Park and we found the names of the sculptures, and it didn't help just to have the names. We needed to know what they looked like in order to match them to the description at the bottom of the puzzle. So we walked around and we looked at all of them. There are 13 sculptures. I'll just show you all the pictures real quick and then we'll talk about how we plugged them in. Here's 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9, 10 and 11, 12 and 13. Long story short, I plugged in all of the sculpture names and there were certain boxes around letters in each of the names of the sculptures. I collected all of the boxed letters and I unscrambled them to form 3 words: Create Art Studio. That is the name of a business on Louisiana Avenue. Now, some of the boxes were lighter than the others, so I missed 2 A's on the first time that I tried it, but I had enough letters to guess that what it was referring to was Create Art Studio. There you go. It just took a second pass through to find all of the letters, but first pass through revealed enough to get the name of the business. Now that we knew where to go, we headed over to Create Art Studio on June 29th around 9:30 in the morning. It was really hot out that day and very sunny on that side of the road. But on the left, you can see the pink arrow pointing to the hiding spot for the ink pad and the stamp. And on the right, you see me with my passport stamped. I was so happy to get that one. That was actually a lot of work to go to the basement, get the puzzle, go to the park, look at all of the sculptures, figure out which one went where, get the letters that were in the boxes, unscramble them, then go to the business, Create Art Studio, and get the stamp. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that one was pretty hard. Our next clue was, I felt like, the hardest one of the whole entire treasure hunt, the Woodland Elementary School clue. If you look in the right column, the second one down, it says, summer begins, but the year's lessons linger. All you've gathered in bright classrooms guide you on. Your ABCs have served you well, and now the alphabet turns in your hands like a key. The letters drift backward like shadows. Read them from sunset to dawn, and the answer will lead you where young roots first take hold. And then there's a bunch of gibberish at the bottom. And I knew it was a puzzle of some sort, but I didn't necessarily know how to solve it. Yes, I knew that it had something to do with ABCs, but I didn't really understand the part about the alphabet is a key and there's something about it being backwards. So I used ChatGPT on this one. This was hard. This was the hardest clue of the entire treasure hunt for my family. As you can see, it is rated a 3 for hard. This is what it looks like. I'm sorry that I called it gibberish, but this is the puzzle that is 2 words. So I ended up wanting to know how this worked. Yes, you can use ChatGPT, but if you don't learn from it, you may not be able to apply it to something else later in the treasure hunt. So I forced myself to figure out, how did this work? And all I did was I put the alphabet from A to Z, and then I turned it around and I did from Z to A, and I matched up all of the letters. For example, the D was a W, the L was an O, and so on. And I figured out how ChatGPT did it. But I got to tell you, I was really intimidated when I saw that. When we went to Woodland Elementary, which is what it was telling us to do, go to Woodland Elementary, we walked all around the building. We didn't know what we were looking for, and we didn't know where to find it. And some nice, kindly staff worker from, I assume, the office opened up this exact door, the door that had the treasure hunt clue or treasure hunt puzzle on it. And I said, "Hey, we're treasure hunters. We're just looking for the next clue." And she said, "Oh, it's right here on this door." So I was happy to have a little bit of help. I had a hint. And what I found was what's on the right. It says small town history, monumental math. There's a bunch of questions and you have to put numerical answers. This is a math problem. Once I took it home and figured everything out, what I got was the numbers 26431. And I just thought to myself, okay, I found this at an elementary school. Maybe this leads me to another school. I looked online to see all the addresses of the schools, and I found that on Eccles Junction Road, 26431 Eccles Junction Road is Fort Meigs Elementary School. So I figured, next stop, Fort Meigs Elementary. When we got to Fort Meigs Elementary School, just like Woodlands Elementary, we had no idea which door or window to go to. We went all the way around the building, and we ended up finding the next clue or the next puzzle at door number 8 at Fort Meigs Elementary School. And it was a music-themed puzzle. It says, "A Hidden Harmony." I already disclosed that I was in band in elementary school, and I learned piano before that. So what I did was I solved this puzzle using my knowledge of treble and bass clef. And I'm not going to read you everything that it says, but it basically is telling you where to go next. Now, I like a good pattern, and we already went to Woodland Elementary and Fort Meigs Elementary, so I thought we're probably going to all of the elementary schools, and I thought I had a 50-50 shot of guessing the right elementary school to go to next. There is a line in here that refers to one kind of tree. There's another line that refers to another kind of tree. I put those descriptions into ChatGPT and asked it, what kind of trees are these? And it had talked about mulberry trees, because it refers in the clue to the one that stains. Mulberries stain. So, okay, mulberry tree, that's the answer. And another clue or another sentence refers to what ended up being a pine tree. Now, in my mind, I heard mulberry and I heard pine, and Frank Elementary School is situated between Mulberry and Pine Streets, so I figured for sure this has to be Frank Elementary School, so that's where I went next. But let me tell you, spoiler alert, I was wrong. This actually was supposed to take me to Toth Elementary School. The next slide here is the cipher or encoded puzzle that was at Frank Elementary School. When I used the key from the fire station, I was able to decode this message, and it basically sent me toward the Commodore building. And I thought to myself, uh-oh, I only got to 3 out of 4 elementary schools. I wonder if I should just stop by Toth and see if I missed anything. So yeah, oops, I should have gone to Toth before Frank. But the Toth Elementary puzzle would have sent me to Frank. Hopefully you followed that. So I didn't really miss anything by skipping the Toth Elementary School puzzle. Anyways, I continued on to the Commodore building, and my son Craig and I got the stamp stamp number 11, at the Commodore Building. The 12th and final clue on our passport led us to Fort Meigs Historic Site. Once I saw the numbers 1813, I thought, oh, there's a place in town that's famous for the War of 1812 and the history around that time period. So I didn't have to look at this clue for very long to figure out I needed to go to Fort Meigs Historic Site. This is listed as an easy clue, and I think it's especially easy if you are a local. When my son Craig and I went to the Fort Meigs Historic Site Visitor Center, we picked up a worksheet or puzzle that's pictured on the left there, and it was about 9:45 in the morning. It was really, really hot out, and we had to be in the hot sun. There wasn't much shade where we needed to be, so we only worked on the worksheet or the puzzle for about 10 minutes, and he said he was done. So I told him, okay, I'll just come back on my own sometime, and we took a break. In fact, we took a break for Independence Day weekend. I did go back on my own on July 8th, and if you look at the worksheet, there's a front side and a back side. The front side basically gives you directions on how to work this clue, and the back side tells you that you need to complete a poem. I had to collect words throughout the Fort Meigs Historic Site, and at the very bottom, I had to write a poem. These are some pictures from my journey through the Fort Meigs Historic Site when I was collecting all the words for the poem. I recited the poem to John Thompson. My son Craig was with me at this point. John is the manager of historic programming and the head of interpretation at Fort Meigs Historic Site. So this is an important guy who's in period dress, and he was stamping our passport with the 12th and final stamp. We were so happy. We just had to tell him the poem, and then he stamped our passport. And there we are, looking happy with stamp number 12. Here we are at the Perrysburg Farmers Market at Treasure Hunt headquarters. I'm on the left and Kate French is on the right. We got our passport punched. All she did was punch it and then let us keep it. And because we completed all 12 of the activities and got all 12 stamps, we received some raffle tickets. You know, you put in your name, phone number, email address. Hopefully we'll win something at the celebration of the end of the Great Perrysburg Treasure Hunt on August 27th, 2026. And we also received a prize for completing stage 1. You'll see our prize in just a second. And very importantly, this is where we picked up our stage 2 materials so we could get really serious about finding the treasure. Arr! We made a lot of treasure references and sounded like pirates a lot. We joked around a lot, my family and I did, because, you know, when you talk about treasure, I don't know, one's mind often floats to pirates. There's a children's book by David Shannon called How I Became a Pirate. And in that, there's a bunch of pirates that keep saying, "Arr, treasure." So anyways, we had a lot of fun with this on many fronts. This is the prize that we selected there on July 9th at the Treasure Hunt headquarters at the farmers market. And at this point, stage 1 was complete. We were finished and we were ready to start stage 2. Our treasure hunt journey continues in another YouTube video about stage 2. So join us for that. Thanks for joining us for the stage 1 video. I had a lot of fun reliving our journey. So join us for stage 2.